If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. Today I want to go over a very popular topic in Laravel. It's a question that I get a lot, but it's one of those things that feels like I am pulling out my eyelashes one by one. So I figured we could just take the opportunity now to go through it, see how it works. This way I'll be able to point you to this video when you have those questions. If we head over to the Laravel documentation and you do a quick search for localization, you'll be directed to this page here titled Localization. And it really is just in the Digging Deeper folder, Localization, and here it is. As of making this video, the current installations of Laravel don't include these language files, so we have to publish the files, and this is just going to give us directions on how to do that. Let's go ahead and tackle that first, and then we'll come back here and see what the documentation directs us to do. Before we go ahead and publish those files, I do want to take a quick look and see what setup I have here. I am using Laravel Sail, but I have installed Laravel Breeze so that we can have some authentication. You can see how that works. We are using Laravel 10.10 as of recording this video. This should work in the future. Now, the current version of Laravel, as I said, doesn't publish those files where it used to be in the resources folder, resources lang. We'll go ahead and install it in a bit. But I also want you to see that we're going to be using Tailwind, Alpine.js auto prefixer. This is what we have in our package.json so that, you know, if you're seeing this video from the future, then you know what we were working with at this time. So I'm going to go ahead, open up the terminal, and then I'm going to do sail artisan lang publish so that we can get those language files. Okay, they have been published. And as you can see, if you go up to the lang folder here, we have an auth file. We have a pagination file, we have a passwords file, and then we have a really long validation file. So let me go ahead and close this. And first, let's take a look at the auth file. Something to note about all of these files that we just published is that they are in an EN folder, which is for English. We are going to be creating ones for Spanish, and we're going to create ones for Arabic so that we have some sort of frame of reference on how to handle RTL languages. In the auth file, these are the language files used in the authentication. So if you're trying to log in or something's not working in terms of authentication, that's what's going on in this file. So that the error messages on the front end will have the failed key, and this is what they are printing out in whatever language it is. In the pagination, you also have a previous and a next. You can make them as buttons, links, however you're going to do it, but this is how it's going to be displayed in that language file. It's going to show previous, and then it's going to show next, and then it's going to have the L aquo and the R aquo. That's pretty self-explanatory. In terms of the passwords, these are going to be the list of reasons why something along the lines of your authentication, let's say your password doesn't work and it wants to print out this is what's being printed out in that file. We'll take a look at where that is displaying in a minute, but as for now, just understand that these are in relation to passwords when you're dealing with something logging in or something like that. Then we have validation, and validation is really just a long list of all of the validation that could potentially be used in your project. Let's say you have an image that you want to make sure that you have a rule somewhere that says that an image should be an image. This is where this is printing out. If you go down, it just continues on. Now, where are these being displayed for now with what we have is in the resources, views, auth folder. And let's just take a look at register. Register has an input error component that's coming from Laravel, and this is where it's being displayed. If we go to that component right here, let's say input error, you can see that it's just printing out the messages, and that's all that it's doing. That's basically where those are coming from. The first thing that I want to do is show you how to set this up with Spanish. And then, as I said before, we're going to do Arabic to have that RTL design. Now in the Laravel docs, if we go down, this is something that we're going to be using in order to change the location so that if our website is in English and someone wants to read it in Spanish, then they can just click the switcher and it will display all of our pages in that language. We'll be using the session for that. We don't need to deal with the fallback locale. You can if you want. It's not mandatory for what we're doing today. You can also pluralize. Again, we're not dealing with that, but that is something that you can do, which is having some pluralization to some of your translations. Now, there are two ways to do this. you can either create something like this. So let's say this is English and there is a file for messages that you have. So it'll be messages.php. And then you can have your whole list of whatever translation strings that you might need relating to your messages. You can create as many of these files as you want for each language and then just duplicate them or repeat them within whatever language that you're going to be translating to. The good thing about doing translations is that you can also have arrays so that when you have welcome, let's say you can have welcome blank or something like that, or something as an array within this file. The second way that you could do it is to use JSON files. Now, this is another way that you could potentially do it, where you just label the JSON file with whatever the language is, just like it is with the folders that we just looked at. And then you would just have a long list of JSON translation strings. And this is something that you can't do. You cannot put arrays in these JSON files. So that might be something that makes you decide that you don't want to use JSON files. It really is use case dependent on however you want to set this up. It is completely and totally up to you and your use case. I'm just going to show you both the methods on how to set these up. Now, this is how the translation strings are within our blade files. Basically, if you had a folder or a file, you could do, as we saw up here, the messages key, right? The messages.php. Then that's how you would call it in the blade file, messages.welcome, whatever the key is in your message file. And that's what will be displayed in the page. You could also change the name. As I said, we're not going to be doing too much of this. I just wanted to show you how to set these up. You can go through the documentation and customize everything that you want to do. I'm just going to show you a basic but thorough example of what we can potentially do. So how we're going to do this is we're going to leave this one alone. And the only thing that I want to do here is I want to create a new folder. And this folder I'm going to call pages. And in the pages, I'm going to create a file called auth.php. And this we're going to use for different things like name, email, password, confirm password, things that are within our inputs, and some of the links that are in the input pages, right? So let's go to the registration page. And we can do that from here. So we'll need the name, the email, password, confirm password right in here. And then we can also do this already registered line here, which is a link. And then we can also have the register button here, right? So that's what we'll do in our auth pages or in our auth file right here. So because this is going to be a PHP file, we'll need to use PHP up here. And then we'll return. And the first one will be name. And here we'll just say name. The next one will be email, password, confirm password, and then we'll have already registered. Put a semicolon here, and the last one we need to do is register. So this is what's going to be displayed in our register page or wherever we're calling these keys. So what we can do is we can change these for now. And anywhere where we have these keys with the translation double underscore here, we can just change those to our new file names. So instead of name, it's now going to be pages/authentication.name. And this is how we have it in this auth key right here. So this is the pages folder, auth. I'm going to change this to authentication so that we don't confuse ourselves with the auth.php that's in the regular en folder. So authentication. That's good. So let's do the same everywhere where we have these translation strings, which is here, email, password, confirm password. And then we have it in the already registered and the register key. We're only going to be doing the register page from here because we're going to be using the dashboard to display other translations, right? So I'm just going to leave it like this for now. And then what I want to do is I want to go up here, and how we have this en folder here, the first one that I'm going to do is for Spanish. So I'm going to duplicate this file and then I'm going to call it es for Spanish. So here we have the folder. I'm going to open all of these up. So since we have the English ones, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I translate these strings. So I'm just going to copy this. And then typically I use Google Translate. You can use whatever you want. You can translate it on your own. I don't speak any of these other languages, so the only access that I have to translations for these other languages is using Google Translate. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to paste in what I just copied. I'm going to go to the Spanish translations, and then I'm going to copy this. Then what I'm going to do is under here, I'm now going to paste in what I just copied. The most important thing to do when translating these things is to make sure that your first keys have the English versions of these. So as you can see in Spanish, its password is contraseña. Hope I said that right. But what you want to do is I just copy this, paste it here, and now I can go ahead and get rid of this default setup. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of the rest of them for all of the rest of these files, and then I'll come back. Now, I have gone ahead and translated everything. If you take a look, we did the auth together. In the pagination, I did the same thing so that we have the Spanish translations for that. The same for passwords, validation. Just to show you, there's a lot of translations in here because the validation file is always a long one. Now, what I didn't do was I didn't change any of these because you haven't created a custom, we haven't created a custom message or anything like that. So that's something that you would put in here, and we don't have one to change. The same thing for attributes. If we had some attributes that we were attaching onto these or changing them or what have you, then that's something that we would change here. So that doesn't get touched unless you're going to use it. I've done the same thing in the authentication file, and this should be good. Now, to test this out, let's go to the config app.php. And in here, we can go down and change our locale. In here, instead of English, I'll put ES for Spanish translations. Now, in the browser, we can go ahead, let's just go ahead and refresh it, and then we'll go to the register folder or file. And now you can see we are getting this page's authentication name, which doesn't seem right at all. But as you can see, we have changed this up. Let's go ahead and fix this. Well, in the authentication file, in the register file, I put authentication and I have spelled authentication incorrectly. So I'm going to copy that. Oh yeah, I spelled it really wrong. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll rename this, paste that in, and then I'll also grab the English one, because that's where we copied it from, and that was also incorrect. So let's try to refresh and see if we get the correct one now. Okay, look at that. We have the Spanish translations on the register page. I'm going to go ahead and also do the same thing for Arabic, and then we'll come back and see what that looks like. Great. Now I've done all of the files for us with the Arabic language. And now, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to change our locale to AR so that we can see that. Okay, look at that. We have it in Arabic. Now, again, I don't speak any of these languages. I can't read any of these languages. I hope it's as close as it can possibly get with my limited abilities, right? But something that I do know about Arabic is it is RTL language, which is right to left. It shouldn't be on the left side. It should be on the right side. So what we can do to deal with that is change up the CSS for right to left languages. Let me close up these. If we go to the resources, CSS, app.css, you see that we have Tailwind in here. This is where our CSS is coming from. All we really need to do to make sure that the RTL language that we are using, which is Arabic, is now positioned to the right instead of to the left. So we can do HTML to make sure that we have it on everything within the HTML. I'll show you where that is in a bit. But you can use lang. And then for us, since we only have Arabic in here, we can do AR, which is the key code for Arabic. We'll do a star for all. And now we can just do text, align, right. This HTML, I was just pointing to my screen with my finger, but here it is. We'll go to the app.blade.php, and everything within here has the HTML tag. This is everything within our HTML pages, everything that's being displayed on the screen. This has a lang tag in it, which is doing the string replace, and it's creating everything. It's grabbing the app get locale, and this is what is setting our language files within our pages, within what we can see, right? So let's go and see what this looks like. Okay, look at that. We are now loaded up to the right like we're supposed to. Now, if we switch the language back to, let's say, ES, and we refresh, now we're back on the left side. That's exactly the type of functionality we wanted. We want the right to left to be from right to left, and we want the left to right to be from left to right. So if you have any other languages or translations that you're adding to this, you can just add them here. So I know that Arabic is right to left, and then I know Hebrew is too. I think it's HE. So you would just chain them on like that. And then all of those languages that are coming through will be text align right. So that takes care of that. The other thing here that I wanted to show you is in our translations, let me close these out. Everything in this lang folder, you can create a separate folder for it and be able to use any pages that you want. So let's say you have a dashboard page, which we do. We can create another file called dashboard.php and add it to here. This way you can separate your language files from each other so that everything's not just lumped into one specific file like it is with JSON. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that this system works with Blade. It works with anything involving Blade. So even if you're using Filament and you use the translations, these are how the translations get printed out. And Filament itself also has different folders for whatever types of areas that it wants to separate and just kind of keep with those. So this works with anything that leverages the Blade files, including Livewire, Breeze, like we're using now, or anything like that. The next thing that I want to do is I want to show you how to use JSON files instead of PHP files for your projects. How can we do that? Well, in the lang file, we can create a file and we can call it en.json. And now this one file will house all of your English translations, right? Instead of having PHP at the top, since it's a JSON file, all you need to do is just open up some curly brackets and start listing it off here. One place where we can test this out right now is to go to the dashboard and use the dashboard to translate these files. So we'll go to resources. Where are we? Resources, dashboard.blade.php. And in here, we can do this like this. As you can see here, since this is a default Blade file, it already has the 2 underscores for dashboard and you're logged in. So why don't we copy these and add these to that file? And then we can tweak this. Right, so I'm just going to go ahead, paste it in here. And then here we're going to add some quotations. And then as a JSON file, it's a colon instead of an arrow. And then here we'll put in dashboard. And then we'll do the same thing for you're logged in. So now we have it in English. Let's go ahead and also do it in our other languages, which is Spanish and Arabic. I'm going to go ahead, copy this. We'll get it translated. Here, I'm going to go ahead and remove this, paste this in. We should be getting the Spanish translation for it. I'm just going to paste it here. And as you can see, because it is in Spanish, we have these Spanish translations here. So we can copy these. So we're going to copy these, and then we're going to add them in here because we always want to have the English version first and then the translated string after. So let's do the same for Arabic. Now, also keep in mind, some of the translations that you get will have different sort of punctuation and things like that. So that's something that you'll want to change when you're looking at these translation files. Now we can remove these and we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and register so that we can get to this dashboard page and see what these translations look like. And sure, we'll go ahead and register in Spanish. And now you can see the text that we have, which says you are logged in, has been translated to Spanish. We have the dashboard and the dashboard link up here that's been translated to Spanish. And if we change the language to Arabic, now we have them as right to left. We have the dashboard, and the you are logged in Arabic. Let's go ahead and just change this to English so that I can understand it and continue on. Let's say you want to create a whole new page, right? And in this page, you want things to be translated and just have everything set up in that way. Something that I may have also forgotten to mention, I'm not sure, so I'm going to say it again, is in these folders for the PHP files, I separated this one into a pages folder. You don't have to do it that way. You can list everything off in the language folder, just as long as it's within whatever language it is, then you can do it that way. But for me, adding folders really kind of helps you separate things, but you do not have to add it into a separate folder. So I just wanted to make sure I said that before you guys get too confused. What I want to do is I want to create a new page. I want it to be a post page, and we'll just have a post. Let's go ahead and take care of that. Now, we're not going to be doing anything super fancy, right? We're just going to create a route, and then on that route, we'll create a view for it, or a route for the view. So in the web.php, we can just add it. Well, I'll just copy this one. And here I'll put /posts, and then we'll create a post index for it. So resources, views, posts, index.blade.php. I don't think it did the way that I wanted it to. Let's remove this and try it again. And for us, I'm going to use this app layout. So I'll just copy it from the dashboard. And here I'll call it posts. And then for now, I'm going to have some lorem ipsum text. Now for us, I'm just going to go ahead and continue using the JSON files because it's just easier for the demonstration. So the first thing that we can do is bring in posts. I'll do it in the English one first, so that we can have that translated. Now, the next thing you'll notice is that in this lorem ipsum tags, or in the string, it's quite a long string, and you absolutely can leave it this way and do it like that. But for static pages like this, where things are really just kind of stay the same, I would just grab this. I'm going to copy it for right now. And in the JSON file, I'm just going to go ahead and do something to describe what it is. And I'm just going to I'll put medium ipsum text. And then I'll go ahead and just paste that in. What that means is now we can use this key in this page. And instead of having this like this, we can do curly brackets, __, parentheses, and then paste in that medium ipsum text. Why don't we also make a link to this post page from the layout? So layout, and in the navigation blade, I will go ahead and I'll paste it here. And this will be posts index, posts index. Here I'll just say posts. And did we not define it? I did not define it. Post index, and here I'll put name is posts index. Okay, that cleared up. Now you can see we have the link here. Let's go to it. And now you can see we have the title, and then we have the text here. Let's try to change the language. We'll start with Spanish. Okay, now as you can see, it is not doing it correctly. Well, the reason for that is because we didn't translate it, right? We don't have it in our Arabic or our Spanish files. So we'll go ahead and copy this. In the Google Translate, we'll go ahead and translate that. We'll do Arabic first. And let's grab that English so that we have the correct keys. So I'll grab that and I'll add it to the first one here. And then I'll just move this up here. We'll add the comma and get rid of this one. And this should be good. But as you can see, as I said before, some translations that you have will have this sort of pattern here. So I'll just get rid of that parentheses, opening parentheses. And now that should be good. So let's try it in the Spanish as well. Okay, and I'm gonna just paste it up here. And the first one will be posts. And get rid of this one. And then medium ipsum text, that should be good. Let me get rid of this one so I can see what the error is. And we need a closing parentheses. And let's try it out. Okay, so now we have it in Spanish. Let's also try it in Arabic. So there we go. And as you can see, everything that we have translated now has a translation string associated with it. Keep in mind, these translations and localization processes that we're doing that are coming from Laravel only really translate static information. They don't translate anything that a user could input in for things like the name. As you can see, these aren't, well, we didn't do these links here, but let's say for the name or anything that the user would submit. So if we did have posts, their posts won't be translated. And there are plenty of packages that you can take a look at to do stuff like that. But for our purposes, just to understand what's going on with translations from Laravel, this will be a good guide so that you can see what's going on and better use those other packages. What I want to do is I want to create a drop down here, and I want that drop down to have the different languages that we have so we don't have to keep going in through the config file. We can just use the language switcher and change all of the languages with our session. So to do that, I'm going to close the index and just head over to the navigation blade. And what I want to do is I'm just going to use this drop down because it works pretty well. And I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to paste it here. And for this notation here, I'm going to put language switcher drop down. And let's make sure that we can see this. Okay, and it's right here. We'll go ahead and change this up as well. Now, what we can do here is we'll just leave it like this for now. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to create a config file. And in the config file, I want to list out the different translations that we have. So we'll call it languages.php. We'll add the PHP up here, and then we'll return. And we'll add our translations in here. This way, they're accessible through the entire app. So the first one will be in English. And then I'll go ahead and add Spanish here first. And then I will also add Arabic. Those are the three languages that we have. We have a list of languages that we can use. If we want to add any other languages, we can add it to this file in addition to the language files that we'll have. And we'll be able to call these configuration files from anywhere in our app. Now, in the Laravel documentation, we'll go down a bit and then we'll check out this route, which is configuring the locale. Now, how they do this is they create a route and they check to see if any of these languages are in array. So for us, it would be English, Spanish, and Arabic, and then abort 400, app set locale. That's something that you can do. Now, because we're using this with sessions, we can use the middleware to intercept the route. So whichever link we click to, whether it's to English, to Arabic, to Spanish, whatever it is, we can intercept it. We can see if the locale actually exists, and then we'll just use the requests and grab it from the session, right? So let's go ahead and create that middleware. I'm going to go ahead and open up the terminal, and we'll clear this, and then we'll do sail artisan, make middleware, and then I'll just call it translations middleware. And then if we go to the app folder in HTTP middleware, translations middleware, this is where we can handle what's going on with our request. So in here, we can do app, set locale. We can use the config to grab the app config to grab the locale. In here, I'm just going to go ahead and change this back to the default English. So it's going to set the locale based on whatever's in that app file. If the session has locale, then we're going to grab this, and we're going to copy it and paste it. App set locale config, it's going to be from the session and it's going to be locale. And then we're going to return the next request. All this is saying is that if the locale is set, so for us, it's now English, the English locale. If the session has locale, then set it to the session locale. And if not, then keep it whatever the locale is in the app config file. We need to register this. So we're going to go down to the kernel.php. And instead of the middleware, the protected middleware, we're going to do it in the middleware groups. Now, because we're just using the web.php file and we're not using the API route file, then we can go ahead and just paste it in here. Well, not paste it, but type it out. So app http middleware translate middleware class. So now we've registered it. We're good to go there. So we can go ahead, close the middleware. And now anything involving a route with our session locale that's involved will be redirected to the correct locale. So it'll be translated in whatever the correct locale is. So in the web.php, right at the top of all of the routes, I'm going to do route get. The route that we'll be heading to, well, we're not actually heading to the route. We just need a route to click on in our switcher. The links that we set up are going to be pointing to different language routes, but we're not actually going to those routes. So in here, I'm going to pass in language, and that's something that we'll be passing in from the route as well. All right, so we'll do function language, because like I said, that's what we're going to be passing in from the link. And here we'll do session, and it'll be the facade, put locale, and then we're passing in the language that we're passing in. Locale is going to be set to the language that we're putting in. And here we'll return, redirect. We'll just redirect back. Because as I said, we're not actually going anywhere. And then I also want to give this one a name, which will be language. Now we need to basically use these links. We're going to loop over them, and then we're going to use these as the languages that we're passing to the route, and that route is going to be set to the locale. So in the navigation, in here, language switcher dropdown, let me close this so we can see this better. In here, we're going to use these links, or we're going to change this link in here. Now we can go ahead and get rid of this, and here I'm going to put for each. And then what are we using? The config file that we just created for the languages. So we'll do config get languages, and we don't need this default. We could, we don't really need it. We'll do config languages as lang equals language. I can spell language. I promise I'm a good speller. I promise. Let's get rid of this as well. We don't, well, no, we do need it, but not directly for each. And then we're going to say if lang does not equal app get locale, then we can grab this, bring it up, and now we'll use this as the links within our drop-down links. So we're looping over to get this. So instead of this route profile edit, it'll be language. And then we're also passing in the language property that's going to equal language that's going to the route. So in here, we can put language. We should also translate our languages, but we'll do that in a bit. But for now, what I want to do is just make sure that we can see this. Okay, we'll go ahead and try the dropdown. And as you can see, we have all of the languages coming from our config file listed here. If you hover on it and you look at the bottom left down here as I hover, you see that we are hitting that language route. We can also change this to be whatever language is the language that we're set to, whatever our locale is set to. So now up here, instead of app username, we can do config get languages and app get locale. And let's see. Hey, undefined array key English, because we haven't translated these yet. All right, so let's do the translations for these. So what do we need? We need English. Then we need Spanish. And then we need Arabic. Let's grab these, put them in our translation files. And let's go and get the translations for these. Okay, the first one will be Spanish. I'll do it like this. Español would be capital. And then Arabic will be this here. Grab that. And then let's do the same for Arabic. Okay, let's try to refresh the page and see if we're still getting that error. And we are. Why are we getting that? Well, of course, in our languages file, we have the list of languages here, but we need to grab the language files for that. This should be EN for English, ES for Spanish, and then AR for Arabic. Let's try it again. Okay, there we go. And if you take a look and try to switch a language, this has been changed. This is now the language for the entire app. And then if we do Arabic, then again, Arabic is the entire language. And if you go ahead and refresh, it has been saved in the session. So Arabic is now our locale language. This is what we want everything to be read in. Now we just translated this, but we didn't actually put the translation string. So let's go ahead and do that. In the navigation blade, we are going to wrap all of this in parentheses. And then we need to do underscore underscore so that we can have the translation string. And then the same thing here. Underscore underscore. As you can see, everything has been translated with whatever language it is. Now, this lorem ipsum is in Latin. We're still counting it as English because it was translated to Spanish, and then it was also translated to Arabic. So very good. We have tackled translations. I hope that was clear. I tried to make it as in-depth as possible. There are some limitations to Laravel's built-in translation systems, as you saw, but overall, it's a pretty good system, especially if you have a lot of static pages and a lot of static text. At least with this, you're at the point now where you can grasp how things are working, how things are translated, how session is being used to basically translate your entire app. Now, if you wanted something more robust, now you'll be able to understand where things are coming from and how it's leveraging Laravel to do those things. So there are a bunch of different apps that you can use, a bunch of different packages that you can use to translate these things to the database, save it in there for you so that anything that users create can also be translated. I'll leave that up to you to investigate. I just wanted to give you some good grounding and seeing how it works. Again, you have some options, so you can use JSON files, you can use the PHP files. I'm dealing with this on my website where I'm trying to put some translations in there and I haven't quite decided yet I want to do it. Just keep in mind that with the JSON files, your file could potentially be hundreds of lines long if you do it just in the JSON files. Either way, try both of them, see how they work, see which one you like better, and really just decide based on your own project implementations of it. If you're interested in seeing how I do this with Vue, that's what I'm working on for my website, is to have translations through Vue. Let me know down in the comments. Just put Vue in the comments if that's something that you're interested in seeing, and I can show you how to do that as well using the i18n package for Vue. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and click that like button as it really does help out the channel. Here's a video YouTube thinks you'll like, and here's a playlist to follow along. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.